Welcome, you curious minds, to another deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're taking, well, a really profound journey through history. We're starting small, focusing on the documented life of just one person. But then we're zooming out, using that story to understand a truly pivotal moment, a moment that really reshaped the world.
Absolutely.
Our mission today, using the newspaper clippings, military records, all the stuff you've shared, is to uncover the life, the service, and ultimately the sacrifice of Staff Sergeant Henry J. Huninghake. He is from Baileyville, Kansas.
And what's so compelling, I think, about this kind of deep dive is how those specifics, the details of one single life preserved in these documents.
Yeah.
They let us forge a real, empathetic connection to these huge historical events. We're not just looking at what happened. We want to grasp why it mattered so deeply. And we do that by weaving Henry's personal story into that larger picture, the Battle of Normandy, and the incredible human cost it involved.
So what exactly have we got in our stack today to help us do that?
Well, we've got some really vivid bits from the Courier Tribune.
Okay.
Find grave entries, which pinpoint his final resting place. We actually have Henry's own WWII draft registration card.
Oh, wow. That gives us a real snapshot.
It really does. And then, of course, crucial historical context on the Battle of Normandy itself.
Okay, sounds like we're set for some real insights as we unpack this.
Definitely.
Let's start with Henry himself then, as he appears in these sources. Born June 16, 1918, Baileyville, Kansas.
Yep.
And you mentioned that draft card from October 1940. It paints a picture.
It does. You can almost see him. 5'9", 150 pounds, light complexion, hazel eyes, black hair.
Huh. It makes him real. Not just a name. It's like a portrait of this young guy right before everything changed.
Exactly. And that card is so important because it grounds him, grounds his story in his civilian life before the uniform.
Before the war really took over.
Right. And his father, August Huninghake, is listed as his contact. That gives us that first link to his family, his small-town roots. It's a moment frozen in time, really.
And it's striking, looking at the Courier Tribune clippings you found, how early Henry was already kind of pulled into the war effort, even before he enlisted.
Yeah, that's right.
October 1941. This is what, just a couple of months before Pearl Harbor? He was one of 3 Baileyville boys. Virgil Brocksterman and Raymond Koch were the others who just finished aircraft school in Omaha.
Right, they were skilled.
And they were heading off to the Glenn L. Martin Aircraft Factory in Baltimore. That wasn't just any job. That was the defense industry.
That detail really says a lot about the mobilization happening all across America. It wasn't just about signing up for the Army. It was the whole country shifting gears, channeling skills, civilian skills, into the war machine. Henry was helping build planes, maybe B-26 Marauders, before he ever carried a rifle.
So he's contributing way before he's in uniform.
Exactly. It shows that trajectory. Contributing to defense even before formal military service, it really reflects that massive mobilization of American labor back then.
But then the call came, like it did for so many.
It did.
By March 1942, the Courier Tribune lists Henry Huninghake. He's one of 35 guys from Nemaha County who are about to be inducted. They'd passed their physicals at Fort Leavenworth. And he officially enlisted in the Army March 29, 1942. So the switch from building planes to, well, potentially fighting in them was pretty quick.
That really makes you think, doesn't it? How many young men like Henry in thousands of towns just like Baileyville got similar notices?
Yeah.
Their individual stories, they're all unique, but together they form this powerful picture of a national moment. A whole generation facing this huge unforeseen shift in their lives.
And he moved up the ranks quickly. By October 42, he's already a staff sergeant.
Right, which wasn't insignificant. A staff sergeant in WWII, that's a leadership role. You're typically leading a squad, maybe a section of infantrymen.
Responsible for them, training, discipline.
Exactly. Tactical deployment in the field. He wasn't just a private, he was a leader.
Yeah.
And he was stationed at Camp Barkley, Texas, a big infantry training center.
And the paper mentions he got a furlough home 13 days back in Baileyville with his parents.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Og Huninghake.
You could just picture it, can't you? Back home, seeing friends, family, telling them he was leaving for duty. And then that line the Courier Tribune reported, his parting shot, "I'll see you in Tokyo."
Wow, that's incredibly poignant.
Isn't it?
It really captures that spirit, that fierce determination, maybe a bit of bravado that so many soldiers had then. Remember, Pearl Harbor was still really fresh.
Right.
Tokyo was the target.
It was the ultimate target for retribution in the Pacific, definitely. But that kind of declaration, while showing resolve against the Axis, it probably also masked the incredible uncertainty.
And the fear, maybe?
Absolutely. The vast difference between that initial confidence and where they'd actually end up fighting, which for Henry, tragically, was Normandy, not Tokyo. It's just a snapshot of that wartime mindset, hope, and maybe a necessary denial.
And that resolve, it wasn't just him. It ran deep in his family, like so many others.
Yeah, the sources show that. The Huninghakes were all in. Henry was one of 4 sons, either in or about to be in active service.
4 sons, imagine that.
Josie was in Memphis, George at Shepherd Field. August Jr. had just passed his physical. He was reporting soon.
The sacrifice of families like the Huninghakes, it's immense. It reminds you of the deep societal commitment to the war effort.
Yeah.
And you think about the strain on the parents, the family back home, tracking multiple sons in different places, always worrying. It wasn't just the soldiers fighting. Whole communities carried that burden.
So while Henry's training, showing that resolve, the bigger gears of war are turning, setting the stage for this monumental event that would change everything.
Normandy.
Let's get into that now.
Yeah,
The Battle of Normandy. This is where all these individual stories, including Henry's, collide. It kicks off with D-Day, June 6, 1944. Operation Overlords, the biggest seaborne invasion in history.
The scale is just mind-boggling. Almost 160,000 Allied troops, Americans, British, Canadians, landing on this heavily fortified 50-mile stretch of French coastline.
5 beaches, right? Utah, Omaha.
Gold, Juno, and Sword. And the planning, the coordination, incredible. You had airborne troops dropping in first, trying to secure key spots inland.
Bridges, crossroads.
Exactly. Then the amphibious landings hit, backed by massive air and naval bombardment. They were up against the German Atlantic Wall.
Hitler's big defense system. Bunkers, guns.
A formidable system, yeah, designed specifically to stop an invasion like this.
And the cost, right from the start.
Yeah.
Staggering. The records mention about 2,501 Americans killed just on D-Day.
Just on day one, and Omaha Beach, assigned mainly to U.S. forces, was particularly horrific, bloody Omaha.
Yeah.
Around 2,400 Allied casualties there on June 6th alone, mostly American. The immediate impact on morale must have been devastating.
How did they push through that initial shock, especially in Omaha?
It's a testament to sheer grit, really. Accounts talk about shock, disorientation, incredible fear. Units got torn apart, leaders were lost. Men were just fighting to survive against machine guns, mortars.
Just chaos.
Total chaos. But somehow, for many who survived that first wave, it also forged this incredible resolve. They'd faced the absolute worst. There was only one way to go, inland. But that initial foothold came at an unimaginable price.
And D-Day was just the beginning. This wasn't over in a day.
Not even close. The campaign raged for months. Allied forces pushing inland, fighting through that really tough Normandy countryside.
Hedgerow country.
Exactly, the bocage. Dense hedgerows, sunken lanes, small fields. It turned every advance into this brutal, deadly grind. Those hedgerows were like natural fortresses for the Germans.
Perfect for ambushes.
Absolutely. Every field could be a death trap. It was relentless, close quarters fighting, very different from what many soldiers might have expected.
And it's right in the middle of this brutal push inland. That's where Henry's story takes its final turn.
Yeah.
Staff Sergeant Henry J. Huninghake died June 10th, 1944. Just 4 days after D-Day.
4 days.
From wounds received in the Normandy invasion. The record stated plainly. Killed in action in Normandy, France.
Given his rank, staff sergeant, and the timing, he would have been right in the thick of it, leading his men through that bocage country we just talked about.
Facing constant danger, making impossible decisions.
Every minute. And if you connect Henry's death to the bigger numbers, it's just gut-wrenching. He was one of approximately 29,000 U.S. soldiers killed in the entire Normandy campaign. That's just killed, June through August 44.
29,000.
And if you add wounded and missing, total U.S. casualties were over 135,000.
Staggering numbers.
They are. But Henry's story reminds us these aren't just statistics. Each number was a person, a soldier like Henry, essential for securing that foothold, liberating France, defeating Nazi Germany. But the cost? It's deeply personal.
And his story, it doesn't actually end there. On that battlefield in 1944?
No, there's another chapter.
4 years later. It shows the respect, the grief, back home, May 1948. His father, August, gets a telegram. Henry's body, with a military escort, is finally coming home.
Imagine that moment for the family. That mix of sorrow and finally some kind of closure, maybe.
Must have been overwhelming.
And it highlights something often overlooked, that long process of identifying, accounting for, and bringing home the fallen. years after the war ended.
Right.
The family had a choice, the sources say. Have the train stop in Baileyville or Seneca. They chose Seneca. It arrived June 1st, 1948, 11:20 a.m.
Such specific detail. It shows the care taken.
It really does, even years later.
Then his body was taken to his parents' home, just outside Baileyville. And the community, they just rallied.
You see that in the sources. Rosary services held at the home, Tuesday night, Wednesday night.
A collective grieving.
Absolutely. It shows that profound respect. It wasn't just a private family loss in these small towns. It was a communal event. Everyone felt connected to that sacrifice.
The funeral itself sounds like it reflected that too.
Very much so. Meticulously detailed in the Courier Tribune. Thursday, June 3rd, 9:00 a.m., Sacred Heart Church in Baileyville. Mass offered by Reverend H.H. Gross-Didier. It was a full, proper send-off.
Hundreds of people attended. Friends, family, a long line of cars from the house to the church.
Yeah.
And full military honors at the cemetery. Sacred Heart Cemetery. The Seneca Legion and VFW posts handled it. Precision, respect.
And naming the pallbearers, active ones like Cyril Olberding, honorary ones like Conrad Feldkamp, it underlines that deep community involvement. It wasn't abstract. These were neighbors, friends.
Real people honoring one of their own.
Exactly. And the newspaper quote really sums it up. Sergeant Hunninghake's death is another example of the sacrifice that boys of Nemaha County made, that the American way of life might endure. He wasn't just a soldier, he was their soldier.
A son of Nemaha County.
Whose sacrifice was felt deeply right there at home.
And he left behind so many. His parents, of course, and siblings.
Right.
Frank, Herman, Elizabeth Anna, George, Joseph C., Paul, August Jr.
A large family, deeply effective.
Relatives even came from far away. Yakima, Washington, the paper mentions, Mr. and Mrs. Ed Mack. It shows how wide the ripples of his life and his loss spread.
It really does. Connects the family, the community to these massive world events.
So, Staff Sergeant Henry J. Huninghake. His story, pieced together from these sources. Aircraft worker, Staff Sergeant leading men in Normandy, making that ultimate sacrifice. It's just such a powerful reminder, isn't it? Behind every war statistic, every famous battle, there's a human being, a deeply personal story.
Absolutely. It's a story of an individual life, a devoted family, a resilient community.
This whole deep dive, it really shows how a small town in Kansas was so intimately tied to this huge global conflict.
It does. Henry's life, his choices, his sacrifice. They exemplify the courage, the loss, but also the enduring legacy of that entire generation.
Makes you look beyond the headlines, the big picture history.
Exactly. It encourages us to consider the immense human cost tucked away inside those grand narratives. History is built from countless personal stories like Henry's.
So for you listening, as you think about Henry's story, these documents,
Yeah.
what does it all mean? Maybe as you go about your day, think about these echoes. How does understanding the individual impact of something like Normandy through one person's life, how does that change how you think about collective memory, about sacrifice, then and now?
We really hope this look at Henry's story and the Battle of Normandy gave you some new insights. Maybe a moment to reflect on the sacrifices made for the freedoms we have.
Freedoms we can easily take for granted.
So easily. There's always more to uncover, of course. But connecting these personal stories to the bigger historical picture, it just enriches our understanding in such profound ways. Reminds us of the human heart beating right at the center of history.